You think this is worth anything? Anyone can print this off the internet. The manager's voice echoed through the crowded supermarket. Heads turned toward Tom, standing quietly at the checkout, his aged face flushed with shame. The manager shook his head with contempt, tossed the card onto the counter and scoffed. Either pay full price or leave. Tom didn't say a word. He slowly opened his wallet and began counting the crumpled bills he had. Meanwhile, a woman in the next line had been watching everything, and just minutes later, a four-star general would walk into that supermarket, furious, ready to change everything. A cool October Saturday in Greenville, South Carolina, brings the first chill of fall. Golden leaves swirl across the parking lot of Red Star Supermarket, one of the region's largest chains, as families push carts full of weekend groceries. The smell of fresh bread escapes through the automatic doors, blending with the scent of coffee from the in-store cafe. Thomas Redding slowly climbs out of his 1998 navy blue Ford Ranger, its paint chipped and scratched in places. At 73 years old, every movement carries the weight of decades. His curved back tells stories his lips never will. On his head sits a faded olive-green military cap, worn by time, resting over gray hair, trimmed for the past 15 years by the same barber. In the pocket of his pants is a small handwritten list, folded in half. Chicken, potatoes, bread, cheese, eggs, milk. Tom's finances have been tight since leaving active duty. His military pension barely covers the bills for the small rented house on the outskirts of Greenville, where he's lived alone since Margaret passed away 3 years ago. Red Star is buzzing with the usual Saturday afternoon rhythm. Mothers push carts while kids beg for sugary cereals. Teenagers bag groceries, daydreaming about their first paycheck. Tom walks among them unnoticed. A young mom rushes past, her 5-year-old yelling for candy. Tom smiles faintly, remembering when his own children were that age. His worn brown leather boots make soft sounds on the polished floor. He grabs a small basket and begins picking up the items from his list. After carefully choosing some affordable chicken and the best-looking potatoes, he heads to the dairy section. He grabs a dozen eggs, always checking to make sure none are cracked, then picks up some cheese and a gallon of skim milk. His basket is now full. He walks toward the checkout lanes, scanning for the shortest line. Lane 7 seems quickest. That's where Sarah usually works, a kind middle-aged cashier who always greets him with a smile. But she's not there today. Instead, a young woman, no older than 20, is chewing gum and scrolling on her phone behind the register. Tom gets in line and waits patiently. In front of him, a Hispanic family is paying for a large haul of groceries. In the next lane, Lane 8, a woman around 40 with brown hair pulled back in a ponytail wears a sweatshirt that reads Army Strong. Her name is Sarah Miller. She's only picking up a few things: a pre-made salad, a yogurt, and a bottle of mineral water. When it's finally his turn, Tom quietly places his items on the belt. The cashier doesn't even glance up from her phone at first. When she finally scans the groceries, the total flashes on the screen. $25, she says flatly. Tom reaches into his back pocket and pulls out a worn leather wallet. From it, he takes out a laminated card, his military ID, part of the National Veterans Discount Program. It's a small savings, but it makes a real difference for him. I have a veteran discount, he says softly, handing over the card. The cashier turns it over a few times, frowns. I don't know how to use this. I'll call my supervisor. Tom nods. Behind him, the line begins to grow. A few customers glance at their watches, visibly annoyed. In the next lane, Sarah finishes paying but doesn't leave. She lingers, slowly organizing her purse. The supervisor walks over. He's young, maybe 25, hair slicked back with gel, wearing a blue company shirt and a shiny name tag that reads, Derek, Manager. He grabs Tom's card quickly, glances at it for a few seconds, and his expression changes completely. Derek flipped the military ID card between his fingers as if it were a fake bill. His eyes quickly scanned the printed details. Thomas E. Redding, Major, U.S. Army, Vietnam veteran. The plastic edges were worn, and the small photo showed a younger Tom, still clearly recognizable. You think this thing means anything? Derek raised his voice on purpose, making sure nearby customers could hear. Anyone can print this off the internet nowadays. A sharp clack echoed through the store as he tossed the card onto the counter. The sound hit like a gunshot in what had been a busy but polite atmosphere. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. The noise of shopping carts quieted. Tom didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the young manager. There was no anger in his face, only a deep sadness, the kind that seemed to age him even more. His trembling hand slowly reached out to retrieve the rejected card. "Sir, I was just—" Tom began in a quiet voice. "Save it," Derek snapped, now clearly performing for the small crowd that had gathered. "You old guys think you can fool everyone with these fake ID cards. This isn't worth the paper it's printed on." Behind Tom, the line kept growing. A man in a suit tapped his foot impatiently. A mother pulled her child away, whispering something about, "Don't look." An elderly woman shook her head, clearly uncomfortable but too hesitant to step in. Derek crossed his arms, puffing out his chest inside his stiff blue shirt. "Listen, Grandpa, either you pay full price or you leave. I'm being more than patient, but I've got limits." At the next register, Sarah clenched her fists. She had finished her purchase 2 minutes ago but still lingered, pretending to look for something in her purse. Her eyes shifted between Tom and Derek, her jaw tight with growing anger. "Are you sure about this?" she asked Derek, stepping closer to register 7. "That card looks legit to me." Derek turned toward her with a smug grin. "And what? You're some kind of expert on military ID cards? You work here? No? Then stay out of it." Sarah pressed her lips together, holding back what she clearly wanted to say. Her eyes dropped to Tom's faded cap again, focusing on the embroidered emblem of the 101st Airborne Division. She was a former soldier. She knew exactly what that symbol meant. Derek turned back to Tom, now fully inflated by the attention. "Look, old man, I wasn't born yesterday. These fake cards are everywhere. You think we're that gullible?" Tom picked up the card from the counter with slow, deliberate movements. He placed it back in his wallet without saying a word. "That's what I thought," Derek muttered. "At least you're smart enough not to push it." He clapped his hands sarcastically. "Now are you paying or leaving?" A low murmur passed through the nearby customers. Some seemed to agree with Derek. After all, frauds do happen. Others looked uncomfortable with how aggressive he was being. A young mother wheeled her cart away, not wanting her child exposed to the tension. Tom opened his wallet again and began counting his bills. They were all small denominations, 5s, 1s. He laid them carefully on the counter, 1, 3, 10, 12, 20. Still a few cents short. He reached into his pants pocket and found some coins. He counted them in his palm, one by one, under Derek's impatient stare and the judgmental eyes of the people behind him. "Finally," Derek exclaimed, snatching the money with a sharp motion. "Next in line, please." Tom picked up his plastic bag and stepped away from the register. Each step looked heavier than the last. His faded military cap cast a shadow over his eyes, hiding any trace of emotion he might have felt. As Tom passed Sarah on his way out, their eyes met for a split second. And in that brief moment, she saw something most people would miss. It wasn't shame. It wasn't humiliation. It was disappointment. Not with himself, but with a country he once risked everything for. Derek was already serving the next customer, making jokes about old guys trying to cheat the system. His loud laugh echoed through the store, mixing with the beeps of scanners and the steady hum of air conditioning. Sarah stood still, watching Tom walk away. His figure grew smaller as he disappeared between towering shelves and colorful discount signs. And when he was finally gone from sight, she pulled out her phone. The Red Star parking lot is nearly full when Tom steps through the automatic doors. He walks slowly toward his navy blue Ford Ranger. He stops beside the truck and leans against the driver's side door. For a moment, he just breathes. The cold air fills his lungs, but it can't cool the burning sensation in his chest. It's not anger. Tom learned long ago how to control that. It's something deeper, more painful. It's the weight of feeling invisible in your own country. His hands find his faded military cap, and he slowly removes it. The wind tousles his gray hair. He turns the cap in his fingers, studying the embroidered emblem of the 101st Airborne Division on the front. The fabric is worn, the colors faded by time and use, but the screaming eagle is still there, still meaningful. Tom was just 21 years old when he first set foot in Vietnam. The cap was new back then, so were his boots, and his unshakable belief in what he was doing. He remembers the men who served beside him, the suffocating heat of the jungle, the sound of helicopters slicing through the humid air like giant metallic dragonflies. Tom places the cap back on his head, opens the door, and sets the plastic bag on the passenger seat. The truck's interior smells like worn leather, and the pine-scented air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror. The radio is tuned to the local country station, the same one Margaret used to love when she was still around. He sits behind the wheel, but doesn't start the engine right away. His hands rest on the worn steering wheel as he stares through the windshield at the supermarket. The automatic doors keep opening and closing, swallowing and spitting out people living their lives. People who never stop to think about men like him. He thinks about Derek, the young manager. 25, maybe younger. The same age Tom was when he came home from Vietnam. But Derek was born into a different world. He grew up in a different time. To him, veterans like Tom are just abstract figures in history books, not flesh and blood men who carry invisible scars and memories that never fade. Tom finally starts the engine. As he drives toward the parking lot exit, he doesn't see Sarah standing near the front entrance, phone pressed to her ear, speaking urgently to someone on the other end. He doesn't hear her say, "General Abrams, this is Captain Sarah Miller. Sir, I need you to come to Red Star Supermarket on Lawrence Road right now. It's about 1 of ours." 30 minutes after Tom left the parking lot, a black Chevrolet Suburban with official plates screeched to a halt in front of Red Star Supermarket. The passenger door swung open, and a man around 65 years old stepped out with firm, purposeful strides. Brigadier General John Abrams wore his full dress uniform, deep blue tunic adorned with polished medals, trousers with gold stripes, a beret gleaming with insignia. His decorations caught the fading light: Bronze Star, Purple Heart, National Defense Service Medal. Each medal told a story. Each ribbon represented sacrifices few could ever truly understand. Captain Sarah Miller approached quickly, snapping a sharp salute. "General, thank you for coming so quickly. Captain Miller, you said this was about a 101st veteran. Where is he?" "Sir, he's gone. But I need you to see what happened here." She pointed toward the store. Major Thomas Redding, Vietnam veteran. He was publicly humiliated by an employee who accused his military ID of being fake. General Abrams narrowed his eyes. "Redding? Thomas E. Redding? You know him, sir?" The general came to a full stop, his expression shifting from concern to something closer to shock. "Captain, Thomas Redding isn't just any veteran. He's a legend. During the Saigon offensive in 1970, Major Redding developed guerrilla tactics that saved hundreds of American lives." A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. "General, that man was treated like a criminal just 20 minutes ago. Where is the employee responsible?" They walked into the supermarket together. General Abrams moved with the authority of a man who had led thousands into combat. Every step echoed across the polished tile, turning heads as shoppers paused. It's not every day you see a uniformed general walking into Red Star. Derek was at Register 7, still telling his version of the story to 2 co-workers, laughing about the old guy who tried to scam the system, when he looked up and saw the general heading toward him. His laugh caught in his throat. "Are you the manager who denied a veteran's military ID just minutes ago?" The general's voice sliced through the air like a blade. Derek stammered, Yes, sir, but the card was fake. Anyone can print those online." "Son, you just insulted one of the greatest living American war heroes." The general stood directly in front of him. With each word, Derek seemed to shrink. Major Thomas Edward Redding, Medal of Honor, Bronze Star, 2-time recipient of the Purple Heart. The entire supermarket went silent. Conversations stopped. Carts froze in place. The only sound was the soft hum of the air conditioning and the firm voice of General Abrams echoing through the aisles. In February 1970, during a battle in Saigon, then-Lieutenant Redding led a platoon of 30 men through Viet Cong-occupied territory. When his commanding officer was killed by a sniper, Redding took command of the entire company. For 72 hours, he coordinated the defense of a field hospital, saving 200 wounded Americans and 150 Vietnamese civilians. Derek turned pale. Other employees gathered, drawn by the commotion. Shoppers stopped what they were doing to listen. The tactics Major Redding developed during that battle went on to save thousands of American lives. The general's voice rose. And you had the audacity to call his military ID fake? General, Derek tried to recover. I didn't know. How could I have known? You could have treated a veteran with the respect every one of them deserves. Sarah stepped forward, her voice steady. Any veteran. We all served. We all sacrificed. The general turned to the growing crowd. Major Redding is owed an apology. Now. Dozens watched in silence. Some had their phones out, recording. Derek stood behind the register, frozen, humiliated, only now realizing the weight of his mistake and how far this had escalated. Captain Miller, the general turned to Sarah. Where can I find Major Redding? 2 hours later, Tom sat on the back porch of his small rented house on the outskirts of Greenville, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and purple. A cup of coffee cooled in his hands as he listened to the distant hum of traffic. On Main Street, the sound of vehicles pulling up in front of the house made him lift his head. Through the wooden fence, he saw the black Suburban and instantly recognized the official plates. Tom rose slowly and walked to the front door. When he opened it, he found General Abrams, Captain Miller by his side, and Derek, the Red Star manager. Major Redding, Brigadier General John Abrams. It's an honor to meet you, sir. Tom instinctively straightened his posture and saluted. Decades of military training awakening in his muscles. General, the honor is mine. Major, may we come in? There are some matters we need to discuss. Inside the modest living room, decorated with a few old photos and a neatly folded American flag on a shelf, General Abrams sat on the edge of the couch. Major, I was informed of what happened today at the supermarket. Let me be clear. What you experienced was unacceptable, and steps have already been taken. Tom gave a slight nod. General, that's not necessary. Things like this happen. No, Major, they shouldn't. Ever. The general leaned forward. Sir, your actions in Saigon are legendary. Your tactics saved countless lives. You are an American hero, and you deserve to be treated as one. Derek, visibly uncomfortable, looked at Tom and spoke. On behalf of Red Star Supermarket, I want to offer a formal apology for the disrespectful treatment you received today, especially from me. I spoke to my supervisor about what happened, and we've decided that all veterans will now receive a permanent 20% discount, and every one of our employees will go through training to make sure something like this never happens again. Also, Derek pulled an envelope from his pocket. Major, in addition to the store's new policy, we'd like you to accept this. He handed over a gift card. It's a $500 monthly voucher for 1 year. It's the least we can do. Tom looked at the three visitors, a mix of surprise and quiet discomfort on his face. I don't even know what to say. General Abrams stood and faced Tom. Major, tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m., the Greenville City Hall will hold a ceremony in your honor. The mayor, military representatives, and members of the community will be there. It's time this city knows the hero who lives among them. Tom slowly shook his head. General, I don't need ceremonies. I just want to live in peace. I know. The general smiled for the first time. But sometimes, Major, peace comes through recognition. Your neighbors deserve to know that they live next door to a man who helped shape the course of this country's military history. Your story needs to be told, not to glorify war, but to remind people what sacrifice, honor, and service to others really mean. Tom fell silent for a long moment, his eyes wandering to the photos on the shelf. He and Margaret on their wedding day, his children when they were young, comrades from the war. "All right," he finally said. "But I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing it for the ones who didn't make it home. They deserve to be remembered." When the visitors left, Tom returned to the porch. The sky was now completely dark, sprinkled with stars. He removed his faded military cap and looked at it in his hands. Tomorrow, that worn piece of fabric would be seen by hundreds of people. But more importantly, maybe a new generation would learn what it truly stands for. The night wind rustled the trees, and for the first time in a long while, Tom smiled. Margaret would have been proud. If you enjoyed this story, click the like button and subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow I have another story especially for you.